And local schools were closed physically on March 13, 3 days after the first case of COVID-19 was reported on the island. Schools are scheduled to reopen on October 5, but the date remains tentative. With community transmission of the pandemic now confirmed, there are concerns of risk to the student population. Acting Chief Education Officer Dr. Kassan Troop addressed the approaches to the new school term at a webinar hosted by the Education Ministry on Wednesday.
In the curriculum schedule as well, we would have communicated previously about the rotational model. So if it is that we can resume the in-person for the most part in October, then you will see some of our schools operating a rotational model, which means that there will be days that our students and teachers will be physically in the physical school, while others are working remotely from home or from a location that will allow them to log on to the internet or any other devices that will facilitate the virtual or computer-aided learning. And then you will have a flip. So they will be out like for 2 days this week, and they will come back into the physical space for 3 days the following week. That's the A plan, as I have said earlier. But of course, the B plan could see us not being able to do that. We are relying on the information and the guidance from the Ministry of Health. Another model that we have approved is the online, which is the full version of online, and that of course will address the older students. So we would have given our permission for our high schools to migrate the learning programs for our sixth form students, our grades 12 and 13 students, to the virtual space. And of course, a number of our tertiary institutions have already started to do that. And the Ministry of Education has supported those institutions, our public-private tertiary institutions, to move their programs into the virtual space.
Dr. Troop says the ministry continues to be guided by health officials, and their default position is a wait-and-see one.
Because we may not be able to physically gather in October, we are awaiting the directive from the Ministry of Health. As soon as the Cabinet is able to reconvene, they will deliberate on this matter, and the Ministry of Education will be guided as to what can be facilitated, and we will definitely communicate with our key stakeholders. So we are conscious that we are in a health crisis. We are aware of what is happening in the sector, and so we have to adjust. So right now I can tell you that we have commenced a series of consultations with our telecom providers, with our providers of computers and tablets and so forth. Those are the distributors and our suppliers. We are talking with our educational service content providers, those persons who have content developed against our curriculum, the worksheets, the quizzes, the tests that are aligned to the PEP and to the NSC and to CXE. We have started to have dialogue with them, because more now than ever, if we have to rely on the virtual computer-aided approaches, we have to give access to content so the learning engagements can be supported on the ground.